Dale Carnegie How to Win Friends Cliff Notes. 8 things this book will help you achieve. 1. Get out of a mental rut, think new thoughts, acquire new visions, discover new ambitions. 2. Make friends quickly and easily. 3. Increase your popularity. 4. Win people to your way of thinking. 5. Increase your influence, your prestige, your ability to get things done. 6. Handle complaints, avoid arguments, keep your human contacts smooth and pleasant. 7. Become a better speaker, a more entertaining conversationalist. 8. Arouse enthusiasm among your associates. Part 1. Fundamental techniques in handling people. 1. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. 2. The big secret of dealing with people. 3. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. Part 2. 6 ways to make people like you. 4. Do this and you'll be welcome anywhere. 5. A simple way to make a good impression. 6. If you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. 7. An easy way to become a good conversationalist. 8. How to interest people. 9. How to make people like you instantly. Part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking. 10. You can't win an argument. 11. A sure way of making enemies and how to avoid it. 12. If you're wrong, admit it. 13. A drop of honey. 14. The secret of Socrates. 15. The safety valve in handling complaints. 16. How to get cooperation. 17. A formula that will work wonders for you. 18. What everybody wants. 19. An appeal that everybody likes. 20. The movies do it. TV does it. Why don't you do it? 21. When nothing else works, try this. Part 4. Be a leader, how to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. 22. If you must find fault, this is the way to begin. 23. How to criticize here and not be hated for it. 24. A talk about your own mistakes first. 25. No one likes to take orders. 26. Let the other person save face. 27. How to spur people on to success. 28. Give a dog a good name. 29. Make the fault seem easy to correct. 30. Making people glad to do what you want. A shortcut to distinction. 9 suggestions on how to get the most out of this book. Requirement for success. The most important requirement for getting the most out of the book is a strong desire to learn and improve one's ability to deal with people. Constantly remind yourself of the importance of mastering these principles for a happier and more fulfilling life. Reading approach. Initially, read each chapter rapidly for an overview, then go back and thoroughly reread them for deeper understanding. Stop frequently to consider how to apply each suggestion to your own life. Use a marker to highlight important ideas and suggestions for easier review. Continuous learning. Regularly review the book, as rapid forgetting is common. Keep the book accessible and glance through it often to reinforce learning. Forming new habits requires persistence and daily application. Active learning. Learning is an active process. Apply the principles in real-life situations. When faced with challenges, refer back to the book for guidance on handling them effectively. Gamify learning. Create a game out of mastering the principles by offering rewards to others who catch you violating them. Self-examination and improvement. Follow a weekly self-examination and review process to analyze your performance and identify areas for improvement. Maintain a record of your successes in applying the principles to inspire further efforts and track progress over time. Summarized guidelines. Develop a strong desire to master human relations principles. Read each chapter twice and apply the suggestions. Stop to consider application and highlight key ideas. Review the book monthly and apply principles regularly. Gamify learning by rewarding others for catching violations. Conduct weekly self-examinations and note progress. Keep a record of successes and lessons learned in the book. Part 1. Fundamental techniques in handling people. Principle 1. Don't criticize, condemn or complain. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People begins with a story about Gun Crowley, highlighting how individuals often rationalize their actions and avoid blaming themselves. Al Capone and Dutch Schultz are cited as examples of individuals who saw themselves as misunderstood benefactors despite their criminal activities. The book emphasizes the futility of criticism, citing examples from history such as the quarrel between Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft, as well as the Teapot Dome oil scandal. Abraham Lincoln's approach to dealing with people is highlighted, focusing on his avoidance of criticism and his ability to understand and forgive. The story of Bob Hoover, a test pilot, illustrates the power of forgiveness and understanding in dealing with others. Father Forgets by W. Livingston Land is shared as a cautionary tale about the impact of criticism on relationships, emphasizing the importance of understanding and forgiveness. Principle 1 of the book is summarized: don't criticize, condemn or complain. 2. The Big Secret of Dealing with People. Principle 2. Give honest and sincere appreciation. The only effective way to get people to do something is by making them want to do it themselves. People have a deep desire to feel important, which drives much of their behavior. Examples are given of how individuals, from historical figures to everyday people, seek to satisfy their desire for importance. Charles Schwab's success in dealing with people was attributed to his ability to arouse enthusiasm and provide appreciation and encouragement. Flattery is distinguished from sincere appreciation, which is genuine and comes from the heart. Numerous anecdotes illustrate the power of sincere appreciation in transforming lives and improving relationships. The importance of recognizing and praising the efforts of others, whether in professional or personal settings, is emphasized. The principle is summarized as give honest and sincere appreciation. 3. He-who can do this has the whole world with him. He-who cannot walk alone away. Principle 3. Arouse in the other person an eager want. Importance of understanding what others want. Lloyd George, Andrew Carnegie. Examples of fishing for people's interests. Example of Ralph Waldo Emerson and the calf, demonstrates the importance of considering what the other party wants. Every action is driven by personal desire. Harry Overstreet's view on human behavior influence through addressing others' desires, a quote by Andrew Carnegie. And examples of persuasion techniques. Example of renting a ballroom, negotiating by focusing on the other party's benefits. Henry Ford's advice, success lies in understanding others' perspectives. Critique of poorly written letters, analysis of letters from an advertising agency and a freight terminal superintendent. Impact of understanding others' desires. Edward Vermeulen's response to a letter from a freight terminal. Improving communication by considering others' perspectives. Rewriting a letter to Mr. Vermeulen, focusing on customers' interests, not just companies' problems. Example of Barbara Anderson's successful job application, highlighting how she can contribute to the employer's goals. Sales success through understanding customer needs. Critique of salespeople focusing only on what they want. Example of Carl and John selling insurance policies. John's approach of arousing customers' desire resulted in successful sales. Effective parenting through understanding children's desires. Example of addressing a child's desire for revenge to solve bedwetting issue. Example of involving a child in making breakfast to increase interest in eating. Applying psychology in business dealings, encouraging others to think they have come up with ideas themselves. Principle reiterated, arouse in the other person an eager want to gain their cooperation and involvement. In a nutshell, fundamental techniques in handling people. Principle 1, don't criticize, condemn or complain. Principle 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Principle 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. Part 2, 6 ways to make people like you. 4. Do this and you'll be welcome anywhere. Principle 1, become genuinely interested in other people. The chapter emphasizes the importance of genuine interest in others for winning friends and influencing people. It starts with an anecdote about a dog's unconditional love, highlighting the sincerity of affection without ulterior motives. The author recalls personal experiences with his childhood dog, Tippy, who exemplified the principle of making friends through genuine interest. The chapter references Alfred Adler's insight that those not interested in others face the greatest difficulties in life and cause the most harm. Examples are provided, such as magicians Howard Thurston and George Dyke, who achieved success through genuine interest in their audience. Theodore Roosevelt's popularity is attributed to his genuine concern for everyone, including servants and ordinary people. Instances are cited where genuine interest led to successful outcomes, such as a salesman retaining a client and a bank securing customer loyalty. The author's personal experiences, including organizing events and remembering birthdays, demonstrate the effectiveness of genuine interest in building relationships. Strategies for demonstrating genuine interest include studying Spanish to connect with South Americans and remembering birthdays. The chapter concludes with anecdotes illustrating the profound impact of genuine interest, such as a nurse comforting a lonely boy on Thanksgiving. The overarching principle emphasized is to become genuinely interested in other people to develop real friendships and foster mutual benefit. 5. A simple way to make a good impression. Principle 2. Smile. The importance of facial expression in making a good impression, emphasized over material possessions. Anecdotes illustrating the power of smiles, from Charles Schwab's $1 Million Smile to a baby's infectious grin. Examples of how smiling can transform interactions, From a doctor's waiting room to phone conversations and job interviews. Personal testimonies, like that of a New York stockbroker, showcasing the positive impact of adopting a smiling attitude. Insights into happiness and mental attitude, quoting Shakespeare and Abraham Lincoln, and observations from various contexts. Practical advice on smiling, including forcing oneself to smile and controlling one's thoughts for happiness. Wisdom from Elbert Hubbard and ancient Chinese proverb emphasizing the value of a smiling face. The significance of smiles during stressful times, as demonstrated by a department store's Christmas campaign. 6. If you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Principle 3. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Jim Farley's tragic death due to a playful horse led to his son Jim entering politics. Jim Farley's success in politics was attributed to his ability to remember and use people's names. Farley's system for remembering names involved gathering personal details about acquaintances and recalling them in subsequent encounters. He wrote personalized letters to thousands of people during political campaigns, addressing them by their first names. Remembering names is crucial in various aspects of life, from business to social interactions. Andrew Carnegie also recognized the importance of names and used them to win cooperation and build relationships. Carnegie's tactic involved honoring people's names and using them strategically in business dealings. Napoleon III and other historical figures also emphasize the importance of remembering names. Using someone's name creates a personal connection and makes them feel valued and important. Ken Nottingham's experience at a cafeteria demonstrates how using a person's name can positively impact their behavior towards you. The principle is summarized as, remember that a person's name is the sweetest and the most important sound to them. 7. An easy way to become a good conversationalist. Principle 4. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Effective conversationalist, example at bridge party, engaged woman by expressing interest in her travels to Africa, prompting her to talk about her experiences. Example at dinner party, actively listened to botanist, showing genuine interest in his expertise, which led to a lengthy conversation. Importance of listening. Harvard President Charles W. Eliot emphasizes exclusive attention to the speaker as crucial in business interactions. Example of a department store losing a customer due to a sales clerk's refusal to listen and the manager's attentive response saving the situation. Listening in personal life. Millie Esposito's attentive listening to her son strengthened their bond and demonstrated her love. Dealing with difficult situations. New York telephone company's troubleshooter resolved a challenging customer issue by listening patiently and sympathizing. Julian F. Dittmer diffused a customer's anger by patiently listening, empathizing, and thanking him for bringing up the issue, ultimately retaining him as a loyal customer. Listening as a key to success. Edward Bok's success story attributed to his exceptional listening skills, which allowed him to connect with and learn from famous personalities. The negative impact of not listening. Isaac F. Marcotten highlights the rarity of good listeners and the preference for them over good talkers, even among important figures. Dr. Nicholas Murray Butler asserts that those who think only of themselves are hopelessly uneducated. Advice for effective conversationalists. Encourage others to talk about themselves by asking questions and showing genuine interest in their experiences and accomplishments. Recognize that people are more interested in themselves and their concerns than in others' issues. 8. How to interest people. Principle 5. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. Theodore Roosevelt's method, prepared for each visitor by studying their interests the night before, showing that talking about what someone treasures most is key to winning their favor. Example of William Lyon Phelps, learned from an early age that discussing topics of interest to others, even if they weren't his own interests, makes one agreeable and likable. Edward L. Chalif's experience, successfully secured funding for a Scout Jamboree trip by engaging the president of a corporation in a discussion about a topic of his interest. His framed $1 million check. Henry G. Duvernay's approach, after failing to sell bread to a hotel manager for 4 years, changed tactics by discovering the manager's enthusiasm for a society called the Hotel Greeters of America, ultimately securing business by discussing the manager's passion. Edward E. Harriman's strategy, interested in working for R.J. Funkhouser, a local business mogul, Harriman first engaged Funkhouser's secretary in conversation about her goals and interests, leading to a meeting with Funkhouser and eventually a job offer. Howard Z. Herzig's perspective, found that talking in terms of the other person's interests enriched his life and led to various rewards, demonstrating the value of engaging others in topics they find engaging. Principle 5. Talking in terms of the other person's interests is emphasized as a way to build rapport, gain favor, and achieve mutual benefits in interactions. 9. How to make people like you instantly. Principle 6. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. The author shares an experience of making a post office clerk like him by sincerely admiring the clerk's hair. Expressing genuine admiration without expecting anything in return can bring immense satisfaction. The principle of making others feel important is emphasized as crucial in human relations. Examples are given of individuals who applied this principle with remarkable results, such as receiving unexpected gifts and orders. Stories include interactions with George Eastman, where sincere admiration led to a significant business deal and a lasting friendship. The importance of recognizing and appreciating the value of others is highlighted through various anecdotes, including a restaurant owner's experience in retaining a key employee. Disraeli's advice to talk to people about themselves to make them feel important is cited as a valuable approach in human interaction. Principle 6 is stated as, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. In a nutshell. 6 ways to make people like you. Principle 1, become genuinely interested in other people. Principle 2, smile. Principle 3, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Principle 4, be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Principle 5, talk in terms of the other person's interests. Principle 6, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Part 3, how to win people to your way of thinking. 10. You can't win an argument. Principle 1. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Story of Dale Carnegie learning the lesson of avoiding arguments from Sir Ross Smith's banquet experience of Patrick J. Hare learning to avoid arguments to become a successful salesman. Frederick S. Parsons' encounter with the tax inspector, where avoiding argument led to a favorable outcome. Suggestions for keeping disagreements from turning into arguments. Welcome the disagreement. Distrust first. Instinctive impression. Control your temper. Listen first. Look for areas of agreement. Be honest and admit error. Promise to think over opponents' ideas. Thank opponents sincerely for their interest. Postpone action to give time for reflection. Jan Pearce's advice on communication in relationships. When one yells, the other should listen. 11. A sure way of making enemies and how to avoid it. Principle 2. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong. Theodore Roosevelt aimed to be right 75% of the time, emphasizing the difficulty in always being correct. Advises against telling people they are wrong, as it damages their pride and intelligence. Suggests avoiding direct challenges and instead subtly guiding others to reconsider their opinions. Recommends using phrases like I may be wrong and let's examine the facts to facilitate open-minded discussion. Shares anecdotes illustrating the effectiveness of admitting potential mistakes and diplomatically handling disagreements. Cites examples from history and literature, such as Socrates and Ben Franklin, who emphasized humility and diplomacy. Highlights the importance of understanding others' perspectives before offering judgments or critiques. Advocates for diplomacy and respect in interactions, referencing biblical and ancient wisdom. Principle 2, show respect for others' opinions and avoid directly telling them they are wrong. 12. If you're wrong, admit it. Principle 3. If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Setting, Forest Park, a wild stretch of timber near the narrator's house. Characters, narrator, Rex, Boston Bulldog, mounted policeman. Incident, narrator allows Rex to roam without leash. Encounters mounted policeman who reprimands them. Interaction, policeman threatens fine. Narrator admits fault quickly and openly. Policeman shows mercy. Lesson, admitting mistakes quickly and openly can lead to forgiveness and minimize consequences. Example 1, commercial artist Ferdinand D. Warren admits error in artwork, gains goodwill of critic. Example 2, Bruce Harvey admits payroll error, gains respect from boss and resolves issue. Example 3, General Robert E. Lee takes full responsibility for failure at Gettysburg, and admiration. Chinese cultural example, elderly man admits fault in estrangement with son, reconciles based on Principal Elbert Hubbard's approach, responds gracefully to criticism, turns enemies into friends. Conclusion. Admitting mistakes quickly and enthusiastically leads to better outcomes and is more enjoyable than defending oneself. 13. A drop of honey. Principle 4. Begin in a friendly way. Woodrow Wilson's approach, advocate for peaceful resolution through dialogue and understanding. Example of John D. Rockefeller Jr., calmly addresses striking miners, wins them over with friendliness and understanding. Rockefeller's speech highlights, radiant with friendliness, emphasizes common interests and mutual respect. Lincoln's perspective, emphasizes the power of friendliness in winning people over, using a drop of honey analogy. Business example, Robert F. Black's friendly approach to striking workers at White Motor Company diffuses tension and leads to compromise. Daniel Webster's approach, soft-spoken and friendly, avoids high-pressure tactics, focuses on persuasion through understanding. Real-life examples. O.L. Straub successfully negotiates rent reduction through friendly and appreciative approach. Dean Woodcock prevents bad publicity by explaining a situation to a concerned citizen in a friendly manner. Gerald H. Wynne resolves a damage claim by approaching the responsible party in a calm and friendly manner. Aesop's fable analogy, the sun's gentle warmth persuades more effectively than the wind's forcefulness. Conclusion, the power of friendliness and the friendly approach. Principle 4, begin in a friendly way, in resolving conflicts and winning people over. 14. The secret of Socrates. Principle 5. Get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. Principle, emphasize agreement before discussing differences. Importance of yes responses, propels psychological process in affirmative direction. Impact of saying number creates resistance and hinders progress. Example of James Eberson, uses yes technique to secure customers' cooperation. Joseph Allison's experience, successfully resolves customers' concern by obtaining yes responses. Eddie Snow's story, proprietor gains customers' trust in business by eliciting yes responses. Socrates' method, known for the Socratic method of asking questions to lead opponents to agree. Chinese proverb, he who treads softly goes far. Conclusion, Principle 5, get the other person saying yes, yes immediately to build rapport and facilitate agreement. 15. The safety valve in handling complaints. Principle 6. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Principle, let the other person talk themselves out, especially in persuasion. Importance of listening, others know more about their business problems, so ask questions and listen patiently. Story of GBR, secured a $1.6 million contract by letting the president of a company speak for him due to laryngitis. Example of Barbara Wilson, improved relationship with her daughter by letting her express herself instead of lecturing. Charles T. Cubis, impressed a prospective employer by showing genuine interest and letting them talk about their achievements. Roy G. Bradley's experience, prospective employee talked himself into a job by discussing the benefits of working for the company. Quote from La Rochefoucauld, if you want friends, let your friends excel you. Henrietta G's transformation, became well-liked at work by talking less about her achievements and listening more to her colleagues. Conclusion, Principle 6, let the other person do a great deal of the talking to build rapport, understand their perspective, and facilitate persuasion. 16. How to get cooperation. Principle 7. Let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. Principle, let others feel that the idea is theirs for better cooperation. Adolf Seltz's approach, involved disheartened salespeople in decision-making, leading to increased sales. Eugene Wesson's story, changed approach from pushing his ideas to asking for the buyer's suggestions, resulting in successful sales. Paul M. Davis' family vacation, allowed his wife and daughter to decide on the destination, creating enthusiasm. X-ray equipment manufacturer's strategy, asked a doctor for input on equipment, making him feel important and leading to a purchase. Colonel Edward M. House's influence on Woodrow Wilson, planted ideas subtly to make Wilson feel they were his own. Example of a New Brunswick camp owner, provided references instead of selling directly, allowing the customer to decide. Lao Tzu's wisdom, suggests that to lead, one must humble oneself and let others feel their ideas are valued. Conclusion, Principle 7, let others feel that the idea is theirs to foster cooperation and influence positively. 17. A formula that will work wonders for you. Principle 8. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Principle, try to understand others' perspectives instead of condemning them. Example of Sam Douglas, learn to appreciate his wife's efforts in gardening instead of criticizing. Kenneth M. Good's insight, recognize that everyone is primarily interested in their own affairs, emphasizing the importance of understanding others' viewpoints. Story of handling park fires, initially approached the situation with orders and authority, leading to resentment. Later, approached with empathy and understanding, leading to cooperation. Elizabeth Novak's experience, instead of reacting defensively to a creditor's call, she empathized with his situation, leading to a more favorable outcome. Importance of seeing things from others' perspectives, leads to better outcomes in personal and professional interactions. Dean Donham's advice, preparation, including understanding the other person's interests and motives, is crucial before any interaction. Conclusion, Principle 8, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view for better relationships and outcomes. 18. What everybody wants. Principle 9. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Principle: be sympathetic with others' ideas and desires. Magic phrase to diffuse arguments and create goodwill: I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you do. Understanding Al Capone's example, recognizing that circumstances shape individuals and their actions. Example of handling criticism: Dale Carnegie apologized and sympathized with a listener who corrected his mistake, turning hostility into friendliness. President Taft's approach softened the ire of a disappointed mother by sympathizing with her viewpoint. J. Mangum's case persuaded a hotel manager by sympathizing with his desire to minimize inconvenience to guests. Joyce Norris' example encouraged a student to trim her long fingernails for better piano playing without threatening or demanding. Sol Hurok's strategy dealt with temperamental artists like Chaliapin by showering them with sympathy and understanding, enabling cooperation. Dr. Arthur I. Gates' observation: sympathy is universally craved, and practicing it helps in winning people over. Conclusion: Principle 9. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires for effective communication and influence. 19. An appeal that everybody likes. Principle 10. Appeal to the nobler motives. Principle: appeal to the nobler motives. Example of Jesse James: robbed trains and banks but also helped farmers pay off mortgages, believing in his own idealistic motives. J. Pierpont Morgan's observation: people have two reasons for doing things, one that sounds good and the real one. Appeal to the nobler motives to effect change. Example of Hamilton J. Farrell: instead of confronting a disgruntled tenant, appealed to his sense of honor and integrity, resulting in the tenant staying and paying rent. Lord Northcliffe's appeal asked a newspaper editor not to publish his photo by appealing to the respect for motherhood, saying his mother didn't like it. John D. Rockefeller, Jr.'s approach stopped photographers from taking pictures of his children by appealing to the desire to protect children, not by demanding or threatening. Cyrus H. Gay Curtis' strategy persuaded authors to write for his magazine by offering to donate to their favorite charity, appealing to their nobler motives. James L. Thomas' method collected overdue bills by listening to customers' grievances, apologizing for inconveniences, and appealing to their sense of fairness, resulting in payment and continued business. Conclusion: Principle 10. Appeal to the nobler motives for successful persuasion and cooperation. 20. The movies do IT. TV does IT. Why don't you do IT? Principle 11. Dramatize your ideas. Principle: dramatize your ideas. Example of the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin combating a rumor by publishing a book called One Day containing all the news and features of a regular edition, highlighting the amount of interesting reading material the newspaper carried. Importance of dramatization: merely stating a truth isn't enough, it needs to be made vivid, interesting, and dramatic to capture attention effectively. Examples from advertising: television commercials often use dramatic techniques to sell products, such as showing the effectiveness of an antacid or detergent through visual demonstrations. Business application: Jim Yearman's dramatic demonstration of the need to replace old cash registers by throwing pennies on the floor grabbed the grocer's attention and led to a sale. Personal life application: dramatizing requests or situations can be effective, such as setting a romantic atmosphere before proposing or creating a fun game to encourage children to clean up their toys. Example of Mary Catherine Wolfe used a formal letter with a self-addressed envelope and a form letter to dramatize her need to meet with her boss, resulting in a successful appointment and problem resolution. Example of James B. Boynton presented a market report by dumping jars of cold cream on the client's desk, each with a tag summarizing trade investigation results, leading to an engaged and productive conversation. Conclusion: Principle 11. Dramatize your ideas to make them more impactful and memorable in business and personal interactions. 21. When nothing else works, try this. Principle 12. Throw down a challenge. Principle: throw down a challenge. Example of Charles Schwab used competition to increase productivity in a mill by chalking the number of heats produced on the floor, stimulating a desire to excel among workers. Schwab's words: the way to get things done is to stimulate competition. Example of Theodore Roosevelt, challenged by Thomas Collier Platt to stay in the fight for governor of New York despite opposition, leading to his successful candidacy and eventual presidency. Example of Lewis C. Laws, challenged by Al Smith to become warden of Sing Sing prison, inspiring Laws to take on the tough job and become a famous warden known for his prison reform efforts. Quote from Harvey S. Firestone: I have never found that pay and pay alone would either bring together or hold good people. I think it was the game itself. Frederick Hertzberg's findings The most motivating factor in work is the work itself, especially if it is exciting and interesting, stimulating a desire to excel. Conclusion, Principle 12, throw down a challenge to inspire individuals to excel, prove their worth, and seek self-expression. In a nutshell, how to win people to your way of thinking. Principle 1, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Principle 2, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, you're wrong. Principle 3, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Principle 4, begin in a friendly way. Principle 5, get the other person saying yes, yes immediately. Principle 6, let the other person do a great deal of the talking. Principle 7, let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. Principle 8, try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Principle 9, be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. Principle 10, appeal to the nobler motives. Principle 11, dramatize your ideas. Principle 12, throw down a challenge. Part 4. Be a leader, how to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. 22. If you must find fault, this is the way to begin. Principle 1. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. Principle, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Example of Calvin Coolidge, praised a secretary's appearance before gently addressing the need for improvement in her punctuation, making criticism easier to accept. Example of William McKinley, praised a campaign speech before suggesting revisions to make it more suitable for the occasion, preserving the speaker's enthusiasm while guiding towards improvement. Example of Abraham Lincoln, praised General Hooker's qualities before addressing concerns about his actions, maintaining diplomacy while addressing faults. Lincoln's letter to General Hooker, balanced praise with criticism, acknowledging Hooker's bravery and skills while addressing his faults and urging him to focus on military success. Example of W.P. Gore, used praise and appreciation to build rapport with a subcontractor before addressing business matters, resulting in cooperation without confrontation. Example of Dorothy Wroblewski, praised an employee's strengths before addressing performance issues, fostering confidence and cooperation in addressing the problem. Conclusion, beginning with praise and honest appreciation makes criticism easier to accept and fosters cooperation and improvement. 23. How to criticize and not be hated for it. Principle 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Principle, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Example of Charles Schwab, instead of scolding employees for smoking in a no-smoking area, he handed them cigars and politely asked them to smoke outside, making them feel important and appreciated. Example of John Wanamaker, rather than reprimanding salespeople for neglecting a customer, he personally assisted the customer, subtly demonstrating the behavior he expected from his employees. Example of Carl Langford, to address complaints about accessibility, he removed the door from his office, symbolically signaling his open-door policy and encouraging direct interaction with citizens. Criticism technique, avoid using the word but after praise, as it can negate the sincerity of the praise and make the criticism feel harsh. Example of changing but to and, instead of saying, "We're proud of you, but your grades could be better," say, "We're proud of you, and with continued effort, your grades can improve." Example of Marge Jacob, instead of directly confronting sloppy construction workers, she praised them for a clean front lawn, indirectly signaling her expectations, which they then met. Example of Master Sergeant Harley Kaiser, rather than ordering reservists to cut their hair, he emphasized leading by example and offered to accompany them to get haircuts, indirectly encouraging compliance. Example of Lyman Abbott, rather than harshly criticizing his sermon, his wife praised it as suitable for publication, subtly suggesting it wasn't appropriate for a speech. This indirect feedback led Abbott to discard his prepared manuscript and deliver a more natural speech. Conclusion, indirectly addressing mistakes can be more effective in fostering change without causing resentment or offense. 24. Talk about your own mistakes first. Principle 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Principle, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others. Example of Dale Carnegie and his niece Josephine, instead of immediately criticizing her mistakes, he reflected on his own past mistakes and began conversations with understanding and humility, which led to more effective communication and improvement. Example of, for example, Dilly Stone, instead of simply pointing out spelling mistakes made by his secretary, he shared his own struggles with spelling and emphasized the importance of professionalism, leading to a reduction in errors. Example of Prince Bernhard von Bar 1/4 low, when confronted by the Kaiser to take blame for controversial statements, von Bar 1/4 initially defended himself but then humbly praised the Kaiser's knowledge and abilities, leading to reconciliation and praise from the Kaiser. Conclusion: admitting one's own mistakes before criticizing others can lead to more effective communication, understanding, and positive outcomes. Example of Clarence Zerhusen: rather than simply forbidding his son from smoking, he shared his own struggles with nicotine addiction and the impact it had on his health, which influenced his son to abstain from smoking and motivated Zerhusen himself to quit smoking as well. Principle 3, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others. 25. No one likes to take orders. Principle 4. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Principle: ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Example of Owen D. Young: he never gave direct orders but instead offered suggestions and asked questions, allowing people to take initiative and learn from their mistakes. Technique benefits, corrects errors easily, saves pride, and encourages cooperation instead of rebellion. Example of Dan Santrelli: an instructor's brash order to move a student's illegally parked car caused resentment among students, leading to a hostile classroom environment. Alternative approach: asking in a friendly manner and suggesting the benefits of moving the car could have avoided resentment and resistance. Importance of asking questions: makes orders more palatable and stimulates creativity in those involved. Example of Ian MacDonald: instead of pushing his team to meet a challenging deadline, he gathered them, explained the situation, and asked for their input on how to handle the order. Outcome: employees offered ideas and took ownership of the challenge, leading to successful completion of the order. Principle 4. Effective leaders ask questions instead of giving direct orders. 26. Let the other person save face. Principle 5. Let the other person save face. Principle: let the other person save face. Example of Charles Metz: General Electric gently removed him from a department head position by giving him a new title, allowing him to save face and maintaining his indispensability. Importance of saving face, vital for maintaining relationships and avoiding hurt feelings. Example of Marshall A. Granger: instead of casually firing seasonal employees, he praised their work and expressed confidence in their abilities, leaving them with a positive impression of the company. Story of Fred Clark: aggressive fault-finding by a vice president led to the destruction of the working relationship and rendered the supervisor useless to the company. Story of Anna Matsone: despite making a serious error in a project, her boss handled the situation with understanding and expressed confidence in her abilities, boosting her morale and determination. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry copyright reads quote, "I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eyes." Principle 5. A real leader lets the other person save face, recognizing the importance of preserving their dignity and self-esteem. 27. How to spur people on to success. Principle 6. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. Principle: praise the slightest improvement and every improvement. Example of Pete Barlow: trained dogs using praise and rewards, noting that praise inspires further improvement. Jess Lair's quote: "Praise is like sunlight to the warm human spirit." Story of Enrico Caruso: mother's praise and encouragement led him to become the greatest opera singer of his age. Story of Charles Dickens: editor's praise of his writing changed his life, leading to numerous best-selling books. Story of H.G. Wells: old schoolmaster's praise and recognition of his intelligence propelled him to become a successful writer. B.F. Skinner's teachings emphasize praise over criticism to reinforce positive behavior. Example of John Ringles Poor: replaced criticism with praise, leading to improved behavior and relationships with his children. Example of Keith Roper: praised a new employee's exceptional work, turning his attitude around and making him a dedicated worker. Importance of specific praise: specific praise comes across as sincere and meaningful, motivating individuals further. William James quote: "Humans possess untapped potential, and praising others can help them realize it." Principle 6. Be generous and sincere in praising even the slightest improvement in others. 28. Give a dog a good name. Principle 7. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Principle: give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Example of Henry Henke: instead of berating a mechanic for shoddy work, he reminded him of his past excellence, leading to improvement. Samuel Vauquelin's quote: "People can be led readily if they respect and feel respected for their abilities." Shakespeare's quote: "Assume a virtue, if you have it not." Story of Georgette Leblanc: praising a dishwasher as possessing hidden treasures transformed her into a confident woman. Example of Bill Parker: leveraged the manager's reputation for listening and being open-minded to secure another chance to present a product. Story of Dr. Martin Fitzhugh, praising the charwoman's cleaning job led to exceptional performance without extra time. Old saying, give a dog a bad name and you may as well hang him. Example of Mrs. Ruth Hopkins, praised the notorious bad boy as a natural leader, leading to improved behavior and performance. Principle 7, enhance your leadership by giving others a positive reputation to live up to, encouraging them to excel. 29. Make the faults seem easy to correct. Principle 8. Use encouragement. Make the faults seem easy to correct. Principle, use encouragement and make faults seem easy to correct. Example of a bachelor taking dancing lessons, the second teacher's encouragement and praise led to improved performance and motivation. Story of Lowell Thomas. His encouragement led to the narrator trying bridge for the first time. Example of Ely Culbertson, his wife's belief in his potential as a bridge player led him to pursue it professionally. Story of Clarence M. Jones's son, encouragement and positive reinforcement in learning math transformed his academic performance and confidence. Principle 8, to help others improve, provide encouragement and make faults seem manageable. 30. Making people glad to do what you want. Principle 9. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Principle, make people glad to do what you want. Example of Woodrow Wilson and William Jennings Bryan, Wilson appointed Colonel House as peace emissary instead of Bryan, making Bryan feel that his importance exceeded the role. Example of William Gibbs McAdoo, Wilson extended an invitation to McAdoo to join his cabinet in a way that made McAdoo feel he was doing Wilson a favor. Example of Delo Ferrier and his son, Ferrier incentivized his son to pick up bears by offering payment for each basket filled, resulting in improved performance. Story of a man who gracefully declined invitations. Instead of simply stating his busyness, he suggested alternative speakers, leaving the invitees content with his refusal. Example of Gunter Schmidt. Schmidt appointed a negligent employee as supervisor of price tag posting, giving her a sense of authority and responsibility, which improved her performance. Napoleon's use of titles and authority. Napoleon distributed titles and authority to his soldiers, recognizing the power of recognition and status. Example of Mrs. Ernest Gent. Mrs. Gent solved a problem of boys destroying her lawn by appointing the worst offender as her detective, giving him a sense of authority. Guidelines for effective persuasion. Be sincere and focus on the benefits to the other person. Clearly understand what you want the other person to do. Empathize with the other person's desires. Consider the benefits the person will receive from doing what you suggest. Match those benefits to the person's wants. Present your request in a way that highlights personal benefits for the other person. Principle 9, make the other person happy about doing what you suggest. In a nutshell, be a leader. A leader's job often includes changing your people's attitudes and behavior. Some suggestions to accomplish this. Principle 1, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Principle 2, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Principle 3, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Principle 4, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Principle 5, let the other person save face. Principle 6, praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise. Principle 7, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Principle 8, use encouragement. Make the faults seem easy to correct. Principle 9, make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. A shortcut to distinction. In 1935, 2,500 people attended a course on effective speaking and influencing men in business by the Dale Carnegie Institute of Effective Speaking and Human Relations. The attendees were executives, employers, and professionals seeking practical skills in communication and human relations. Dale Carnegie's courses attracted a wide range of participants, including those from large organizations like Westinghouse Electric, McGraw-Hill, and the American Institute of Electrical Engineers. The demand for such courses highlighted deficiencies in traditional education systems, which often overlooked practical skills like communication and relationship building. Dale Carnegie's own journey from a Missouri farm to becoming a renowned public speaker and educator is outlined, emphasizing his struggles and eventual success. He developed a unique training system combining public speaking, salesmanship, human relations, and applied psychology to help people conquer their fears and develop confidence. The effectiveness of Carnegie's courses was evident in the continued meetings of graduates clubs and the significant distances some students traveled to attend classes. Lowell Thomas, in 1936, lauded Dale Carnegie's impact on adult education and recognized his courses as a significant movement in personal development.